In Focus continues now. Thanks for being with us. I'm Jennifer Lewis Hall, helping thousands of people qualify for services through the Energy Coordinating Agency, winterizing their homes and conserving energy. Joining me now to talk more about that is Steve Luxton, who is with me. Glad you are here. Steve, you are the Director of Conservation Services for ECA. So thanks for getting up early.
My pleasure.
Glad that you could come. And you also, we love when people bring props and interesting things we can look at. So you're already in, I can tell you that. This is really connected. Tell us what this is and why it is so important to bringing this to residents in the city.
Sure. This is, it looks a little back to future-ish, but this is probably the key tool when it comes to making a home more energy efficient. This is how we start off. And typically an individual, an energy auditor, would be the person that would set this up. And
can we cut it on actually while you're doing this? So tell us what you're measuring.
Sure.
This is a blower down here as well?
It's the blower door fan, so just as the name implies, it's a fan, so it pulls a lot of air. I'll turn it on. And typically what we do is we pull all the air out of the house. So prior to doing that, we button up the house, make all the windows and doors closed, or make sure that they're closed. And then once the house is as tight as it's going to be in terms of openings to the outside, we turn on the fan and we can do two things with it. We can quantify the amount of air leakage, and then we can actually walk through the house and identify where all the leaks are as well. So it really has a great two-in-one benefit.
So this is great. I'm going to actually have you cut this off, but this actually simulates our door. This is the blower, and you're saying from there you can see really how much energy essentially is being wasted or not, I guess, preserved.
Yeah, the energy really is the air. So a typical home might exchange the entire volume of air in it once every hour, which is considered not good. The goal would be to exchange the air in that house once every 3 hours. So to go about doing that, we need this tool because this keeps track of how much air we're reducing in terms of air leakage.
And once you find out that what you're saying is not good, that exchange of air is not happening the way that you want to, what do you do? What are some tips that folks can use at home right now to conserve that energy? And again, ECA is one of the programs. We talked about LIHEAP. We talked about a number of programs with folks today that can help them if they're finding that the bills are not getting paid and they qualify for those programs. When you guys go in, how do you make it more energy efficient inside the home quickly?
Sure. So we'll generally start off with the blower door, and once we've got the blower door on, we will walk throughout the house because, as I mentioned, we can quantify how much air is leaking through the home, but we can also identify where the home has the leaks, and it's very important. So with the fan running, we can take this type of device. This is called a pressure pan.
Okay.
And we can put it on the vents, or we call them registers, and we can measure how leaky the register is.
Oh, that's neat.
So it's supposed to blow air, but sometimes that air goes into unintended spaces.
And
so this helps identify
wasted. Now, what can you do? What are some of the top tips you have for people at home who say, you know what, I know I have a drafty door, window sills, or windows. What are some of the key things you can do for, we hope, very little to help to start to conserve some of that energy in the home?
To be as frugal as you can, but try to make a difference in terms of eliminating drafts and so on. The windows are the prime culprit in most homeowners' minds for good reason. You've got a wall that's 6 inches thick, and suddenly you come across this glass opening that's only 1/4 of an inch thick. So for good reasons, it is the coldest spot in any typical wall.
So seal off those windows that need to be properly sealed, I guess, around the sills you're talking about. And what about setting your thermostat and getting the proper thermostat? How important is that to saving also?
The thermostat arguably is the most important energy control device in the house. It's the gas pedal for all intents and purposes. And unfortunately, sometimes in households with lots of occupants, it can go up and down depending on who feels chilly and so on. But
oh, I know that. That's like my house, exactly.
Right, very common. We call them thermostat jigglers. But the key thing to do is try to keep it at a steady temperature. And the most conservative temperature that we've identified, where there should be a certain comfort level, but at the same time, some level of efficiency, would be 68 to 70 degrees.
So is that the key to get a programmable thermostat? It needn't be expensive, and you're saying program it a little bit cooler at night while you're sleeping,
Absolutely.
A little bit warmer, or if you go to work, take it down then?
The setback feature of a thermostat, if everybody typically is in bed around the same time. You can have your setback thermostat pull the temperature back maybe 3 degrees, 4 degrees, nothing heroic.
Okay.
Because when you go too excessive, it probably won't last, especially when we get into the real cold days of the winter. So you want to find something that's moderate, that everybody can deal with.
Something you said important here in the materials. The average American family wastes 8% of all home water usage also through leaks. I mean, this goes to conservation. I just thought this was also interesting. You talked about connecting a rain barrel to your home's downspout planter, reusing that water for lawns, trees, gardens, and washing cars. So while you're doing this inside the home, you're saying think about all the different ways that you can really conserve the resources that we have.
Absolutely. Water conservation is as important as energy conservation. Energy sort of takes precedent only because when we get into cold days, suddenly everybody forgets about any other type of issue in the house other than being comfortable. And of course, for the bill payer in the house, looking forward to getting that energy bill at the end of the month and not being too comfortable when you open it up and seeing how bad it is. But that is controllable. That's the most important thing. It's not something that you have to be resigned to. There are ways to lower that energy bill. And we've already discussed eliminating air leakage, setting back your thermostat. Every degree that you can set back in your thermostat, let's take that 70 degrees for instance. If you can go back to 68, 2 degrees, that's a 6% savings. It's 3% per degree. Absolutely.
And so really good ways to be efficient there. A couple of other things too as we talk about conservation and energy. You said reuse things and recycle. At least 50 million plastic bottles are wasted. This is every day in the U.S. And also the city of Philadelphia gives you the recycling bins. So again, you're talking about proper usage of those in 21 locations. You can use your own container that is no larger than, you said, 32 gallons and labeled for recycling. So properly recycling, reusing, and conserving energy. You say they all go together.
They all go together.
Steve, thank you so much for joining us. That will do it for us here. I'm Jennifer Lewis Hall. Please join me again on Monday morning starting at 5 a.m. for PHL 17 Morning News. On behalf of all of us here at PHL 17, have a great weekend. Remember, recycle.